Hi, my name is Tim Huntington. I've been teaching since 2009, and during that time I've helped hundreds of candidates successfully prepare for the IELTS test. Today we're going to look at a great way you can improve your grammatical range in IELTS Speaking Part 2. You'll see how and when to use the narrative tenses to make your stories seem more natural and to get a higher band in IELTS Speaking. We'll especially focus on using the past perfect continuous and the past continuous because people often get confused about when to use these two. You can use the 4 narrative tenses in IELTS Speaking, especially in Part 2, when you often need to tell stories about your experiences. Look at this IELTS Speaking Part 2 question, which asks you to describe a problem you had while you were driving. Now let's look at a model answer. What do you notice about the tenses in the model and the movements in time? The story gives the main events in the past simple, but regularly uses the other narrative tenses to give background information, to say what was happening around the main events, and to move backwards and forwards in time. Look at the highlighted verbs in the model and try to find an example of the regular past simple, the irregular past simple, 2 examples of the past continuous, 2 examples of the past perfect simple, and 2 of the past perfect continuous. Happened is a regular past simple verb. Got is an example of the irregular past simple. Was raining and was traveling are in the past continuous. Had left and had been are examples of the past perfect simple. And finally, had been visiting and had been driving are examples of the past perfect continuous tense. Now let's take a look at each of these tenses, how they're formed and when to use them, beginning with the past simple tense. The past simple is probably the most important tense for telling stories because we use it to describe the main events in the story. It also moves the story forward because we use it to describe consecutive events. Consecutive events are events that follow one after the other, moving forward in time. For example, the model answer uses the past simple to describe 5 consecutive events. I reached the traffic jam, then I had to slam on the brakes, then I turned on the radio, then I heard the news, and then I sat in the traffic. Narrative tense number 2, the past continuous. The past continuous tense is formed with was or were and the verb plus ing. When telling stories, we use the past continuous tense for 2 main reasons. Firstly, we can use it to describe background actions or activities. These are things that were happening around the main event. For example, it was Sunday evening and it was raining heavily. It was raining was happening in the background around the main events of the story. Secondly, we use the past continuous to describe a past action that was happening or in progress when another action interrupted or stopped it. It's important to remember that you cannot use a time phrase with the past continuous. So it would be wrong to say, I was driving home for 2 hours when I suddenly hit heavy traffic. The past perfect continuous can show duration, but the past continuous cannot show duration. Duration means length of time. So the past continuous never shows length of time and never uses a time phrase like for 2 hours. The next narrative tense is the past perfect simple, which is formed with had plus the past participle. We use the past perfect to talk about an action that happened before another action that was already in the past. So the past perfect is usually combined with the past simple. The past simple puts the story in the past, and then the past perfect takes the listener further in the past to an earlier past. We use the past perfect simple rather than continuous to emphasize that an action was completed earlier in the past. This is a key difference between the past perfect simple and the past perfect continuous. Have a look at the two examples below and tell me which one shows that the action was completed. Well, only number 1 can show that the action was completed earlier in the past, and that's because that is the past perfect simple. Only the past perfect simple can show and emphasize this completion. Narrative tense number 4, the past perfect continuous. The past perfect continuous is formed by had plus been plus the verb and ing. The past perfect continuous emphasizes that an action continued over a period of time in the earlier past. In the model, we saw I had been visiting my friend over the weekend. The past perfect continuous is used here because the activity, visiting my friend, continued over a period of time, in this case, over the weekend. Sometimes we can use the past perfect continuous for an action that was in progress when another action interrupted or stopped it. In our example, we saw this with I had been driving for about 2 hours when I reached the traffic jam. The past perfect continuous emphasizes the duration of an action earlier in the past, and that means that you can use it with a time phrase such as for 2 hours. We saw this in the example, I had been driving for about 2 hours. So let's take a quick look at the differences between the past continuous and the past perfect continuous. We use the past perfect continuous to talk about actions that happen before another action in the past, while we use the past continuous to talk about actions that happen around the time of another action in the past. So the key difference here is the past perfect continuous is before the action in the past. It's in the earlier past. However, both the past perfect continuous and the past continuous can be used for actions that were interrupted or stopped by another action in the past. So what is the difference here? Well, the key difference is that the past perfect continuous emphasizes duration. It emphasizes length of time. So it can be used with time phrases such as 2 hours, a long time, or a few days. The past continuous tells us nothing about duration, nothing about length of time, and cannot be used with time phrases. Now it's practice time. Have a look at the following exercises and test your understanding of the 4 narrative tenses we have discussed so far. In this exercise, you have to choose the best option, either the past perfect simple or the past perfect continuous. Pause the video now if you'd like to do the exercise on your own. Exercise number 1, answers and comments. Number 1, the sentence shows a completed action, so past perfect simple. In number 2, we see that the sentence emphasizes length of time, so past perfect continuous. Number 3 shows a completed action, past perfect simple. Number 4, the sentence shows a completed action, past perfect simple. Number 5, the sentence shows length of time, past perfect continuous. Number 6, the sentence shows length of time, past perfect continuous. Number 7 shows a completed action, past perfect simple. In number 8, the sentence suggests length of time, duration, and an interrupted action, and so past perfect continuous. Number 9 shows a completed action, past perfect simple. Exercise number 2. In this exercise, you need to decide which is appropriate, the past continuous or the past perfect continuous. Pause the video now if you'd like to do the exercise on your own. Exercise number 2, answers and comments. In sentence 1, only A emphasizes duration, so this is the past perfect continuous. In sentence 2, B shows that something continued around the main event, past continuous. In 3, B, the action studying, happened earlier in the past, before the test, so past perfect continuous. In number 4, B emphasizes duration, past perfect continuous. In 5, B focuses on the action happening around the main event, so past continuous. In 6, A emphasizes duration, past perfect continuous. And again, 7, A emphasizes duration, so past perfect continuous. In exercise number 3, you need to complete the gaps with one of the 4 narrative tenses: past simple, past continuous, past perfect simple, or past perfect continuous. Pause the video now if you'd like to do the exercise on your own. Exercise 3, comments. There are several examples of the past simple which move the story forward in time. There is one example of the past perfect continuous. In the first paragraph, I had been wondering. This sentence emphasizes duration and includes a time phrase for a few hours. So the past continuous is not possible here, only the past perfect continuous. In the second paragraph, there is an example of the past continuous. Why not use the past perfect continuous here? Well, because the action of trying to decide was happening around the time of the other action, the waiter told me. The action was not stopped, it was not interrupted by the waiter told me, it continued around this action. Therefore, past continuous. We also have an example of the past perfect continuous in the second paragraph. She had been perfecting. Here, the past perfect continuous emphasizes duration, that the action continued over a long period of time. Well done, you made it to the end. We covered a lot of important rules here, so please don't worry if you're feeling a little bit confused. Go back over it again and it will become clearer. The narrative tenses, particularly the past perfect continuous and the past continuous, can be tricky to understand at first. But if you can use them effectively, especially in speaking part 2 of the IELTS test, you'll have a great chance of scoring a really high band in the test. Best of luck with the test, and I hope you can get the best score you possibly can. Thank you. Bye.